Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Candy Valentino Show. Thanks for tuning in with me today. And today's going to be a little bit of a different segment because we listened to you. We sent out an interview through our email to our email list, as well as on social media in my stories on Instagram to see what do you guys want to hear more of. You know, oftentimes we are sitting in pre-production trying to think about who to interview, what to talk about, and what type of topics that actually resonate. That is the biggest challenge with the podcast because this is a one-way conversation. I can't sit across from you at the coffee shop and say, what do you want to know more about? So we try to do our best to survey the audience to see what it is that they want to hear more of. And so we made it pretty simple, 3 main categories, and I also threw in an extra for fun. But we said, what exactly do you want to hear more about? Like entrepreneurial topics, business growth? Do you want to hear, the second one was, do you want to hear more finance, money, or do you want to hear more motivation and inspiration? And then just to be funny, I said, do you want beauty and fitness tips? But obviously the predominant people really voted for 2 big categories, which was business and money, which we assumed. But the money category won a little bit, slightly above. So we thought, all right, we're going to bring a new segment to the show straight from the Wealth Habits book, which I'm pointing to if you are watching. And if you're listening, don't worry, you're not missing anything. There's just a book with my face on it sitting on my shelf. And a lot of people really like that book. It obviously was an instant Wall Street Journal bestseller. It talked a little bit more about the personal side of finance. It did have a little bit of entrepreneurial and business in it about how to make more money, but a lot of it was just the personal finance side. So we are going to be doing a weekly segment that is the Wealth Habits segment. Maybe it'll be Wealth Habits Wednesday. We'll turn it into a new episode. Who knows? Wednesday just kind of sounds nice with it, don't you think? But we can call it something else. Open to your suggestions. You can shoot me a DM if you think of a really creative name. Otherwise, I'll probably end up on ChatGPT to see what should we name a financial segment for a show, which is always a great hack to go and do. But for today's episode, I want to talk about something that I think plagues a lot of people, especially if at one point you weren't very good with money or you made some bad decisions. And so I think this is something that hurts a lot of people. And it's also something that we don't necessarily think about. So I want to bring it to light. And that is how to improve your credit score and save money in just 4 simple steps. So the 4 A's to better credit. And the first one is always check your credit report. Now, if you are not in the habit of at least checking your credit report annually, you obviously don't want to do this too frequently also, and we'll talk a little bit later of why, but checking your credit report even annually is something you should really consider doing, maybe even twice a year. Why? You don't know if it's accurate. That's really one of the most important part. But also, you might have something on there that is from someone else, right? There's a lot of credit card theft and a lot of identity theft that goes around. So you want to make sure that it's accurate and also that nothing has creeped on that isn't even from you. So this is a free thing you can do. If you have a credit card, say for example, Citibank, they have actually in their online app where you can check your credit report for free. If your app doesn't have that or the credit card company that you currently use doesn't have anything like that as a feature, you can go on to Experian.com. It's one of the big 3 credit reporting companies. You can go on and just pull it for free. So that is first. Always check your credit report. The second A is always pay your bills on time. Your payment history makes up to over a third of your total overall credit score, 35% to be exact. So you want to make sure that on top of staying on your credit report, making sure it's accurate, you want to make sure that you pay those bills on time. And the way that you can do that is making it simple. So you can set it and forget it. Make sure that you are at least setting that minimum payment. If you are not actively tackling your debt, set that up to be automatic. And you can always go on, set a reminder in your phone to go on at a certain time during the month, maybe 5 days prior to your bill is due, and pay that extra principal balance, whether that's on a credit card or obviously your home loan, car loan, whatever it is that you're trying to tackle. But make sure that they're paid on time. Even if it is just the minimum of amount, you can always go in and make sure to add more as you are tackling that debt, which brings us to number 3. Always pay down bad debt. So what is bad debt? Any debt that is on depreciating assets, cars, boats, quads, off-road vehicles, credit cards, payday loans, paycheck loans, you name it. Those are all bad debt. Now, we want to make sure that we are eradicating bad debt even before we start investing. Why? Because you can't out-invest bad debt. You can't put money in the market and get 10% on a return if you're paying 24% on a credit card interest rate. So you always want to make sure that you get rid of bad debt on depreciating assets. And depreciating assets is just basically anything that you buy that it is at its highest value when you buy it. So you buy a boat, and all of a sudden, a year later, it's going to be worth drastically less than what you paid for it. You buy a car, it's going to be worth less. We always want to look at acquiring appreciating assets, things that can make us money. That's why we want to invest our money. So at some point, we can stop trading time for it. So always pay down your bad debt. And that brings us to number 4, which I talked to a little bit in the beginning, is don't open up too many new accounts. Opening up too many brand new accounts too often can actually hurt your credit score. So you want to check it, but you don't want to check it too often. And you really don't want to open any new accounts. Now, let's say you are at this place in your life and you have a lot of credit card debt or a lot of debt in general, and you want to start tackling it. I always say personal finance is pretty simple. We either make more money or we spend less. And typically it's a lot faster if we do both. How do we increase our earnings and decrease our expenses? So I always talk about the State of the Union meeting, and we normally talk about it for business owners, something that you should be doing inside of your business, but this also works for personal finance. And if you have a business, this is something you should be doing twice, doing it for your small business, for your company, and then also doing it for your personal finances, which would be your personal credit card or your personal loans or any expenses that you have going out. And I always say, regardless of who you're working with, having your personal expenses in QuickBooks or in Xero, whatever it is that you may be using for your bookkeeping software, but so that you can really see what you're spending, like how much is really going out to Starbucks or DoorDash or your hair appointment, whatever it may be for you, right? Finding out how much money you've actually got going out, any subscriptions that you can eliminate. And by setting up a State of the Union meeting, it's just creating the habit that at least once a month, you're going to spend an hour or two, I always say 2 hours, but an hour or two on your finances. You know, people will invest 2 hours in a movie. They'll invest 2 days in binging a Netflix show, but won't invest 2 hours in your financial future, which is one of the most important things that you can focus on. Certainly more important than following up on whatever Diddy's going on in his trial. So it's a really important thing that I encourage everyone to do. Take out your phone, block 2 hours. If you're doing this for the personal finance side, really look at what expenditures you're making, what income you've got coming in, analyzing if there's anything that you can cut or reduce, and also really getting honest with yourself to see, can you increase your earnings in any way? Can you add more income in? Can you pick up something on the side? Can you sell your skills or a service or your stuff, depending on what it is that you do? So there are a lot of ways. I actually have a whole podcast episode that we dropped a couple months back about 6 ways to make more money without quitting your day job. So there's a lot of ways that you can increase, and there's a lot of ways that you can decrease your expenses. But always remember that if you want to increase your credit score overall, the best thing to do is to not need it. Obviously, I have a great credit score, but I don't need it. I don't need to use it, but it's there. You know, I know that there's a lot of different schools of thought on this. Some people say you shouldn't have a credit score at all and get it down to 0 and pay off everything. And I know that works for some people. For me, that makes me feel a little unsafe. I think having a credit score that you can always fall back on because life is long and messy and things happen is a really great thing to have. Credit card debt is not a good thing to have. Bad debt on depreciating assets, not a good thing to have. No wealthy people that truly have money and have created money have car loans and boat loans and quad loans and credit card debt. So you want to make sure that you apply some of these wealth habits to your own life. So again, at some point, you can stop trading time for money. All right, guys, take out that phone, set up that financial date with yourself. Go to your favorite coffee shop, favorite restaurant, wherever you enjoy going to. Take your spouse if you have one and start to understand the language of finances so that you can improve your financial health. All right, guys, if you found value in today's episode, please leave us a review, subscribe to the show on YouTube, Apple, or wherever you tune in. Thanks again for spending this time with me today. We'll see you next time.